Got questions about spiritual life, relationships, inner peace, or navigating everyday challenges with grace? Welcome to Ask A Swami, a Q&A series where you ask, and Swamis from Yasodhara Ashram share their insights and experiences. In this episode, I speak with Swami Padmananda about rejection, self-doubt, and how to move forward with confidence.
Hare Krishna, Mukunda Krishna, Mohana Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
Hello, Swami Padmananda, and welcome to Ask A Swami.
Thank you, Katie. It's nice to be here with you and have this time.
Absolutely. We'll get right into the questions for today. And the first one is, Dear Swami, how can a spiritual perspective help us face rejection, self-doubt, and disappointment?
Spiritual perspective. Okay. What's coming to mind right away is getting to know ourselves. I mean, that's incredibly important. Yoga is a path to awareness. We're on a path of a yoga path. And just to keep building that awareness through self-exploration, working with the practices, engaging in life full-heartedly, and then reflecting on how all that happens even in a day or in a morning or an afternoon. So reflection's a big part of it. I think the biggest thing for me has been developing a relationship with the divine. And lately I've been recognizing that that in itself is a process. So at first, years ago, with the encouragement of Swami Padmananda, I developed a relationship, an adult relationship, if you want to call it, with the divine, with Mary. I had a childhood relationship with her, being raised as a Catholic. And then I developed an adult relationship with her. And she became my friend and confidant. And then over time, that relationship involved to connecting with my own inner wisdom. So, and I didn't realize that shift was happening for a long time. But it's connecting with my best self, but the part of me that knows, the part of me that has that inner wisdom, the part of me that knows how to connect with it. And then anything that I experience, I have that solidness within myself, that deep inner knowing, that deep sense of liking myself and knowing that I have that power of choice, of how I respond to things, how I think about situations, the world, a person, an event. It's in my power. Yeah, so it's a journey to get there. And it doesn't happen overnight. At least that's been my personal experience. So in our women's class that we call ourselves the beings of light, we've been working on our best selves. And I love that term, because if I make choices and decisions based on that, my ideal of what a best self is, then, those disappointments or anything that presents itself that can create angst or sorrow, it doesn't have such a large impact. I have something to work with. I've got this buddy within me. If I take the time to be still and really connect, she's there.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a power in spiritual practice in kind of allowing us to recognize our best selves, but then also have a cocoon to return to, a safe place where we feel connected and we can understand. And I know for myself, like thinking about those three things that are in the question, rejection, self-doubt, disappointment, I know in the Kundalini book, there's so much about doubt. I think it's in the very beginning where Swami Radha talks about doubt and self-doubt, and how in some ways it can actually be very beneficial to doubt our decisions, to doubt things about our personality aspects and our way of being, because that can create room for reflection. And I wonder, based on your life experience, how has rejection and disappointment sort of shaped your relationship with the divine and with your best self?
Yeah, so rejection, we could start with that. What I've experienced, sometimes I've perceived to be rejected from something, and that hasn't been the case. So again, it's bringing in that lens of exploration and what is it that feels rejected? What part of me feels rejected? What is it all about? So again, curiosity has been a real friend of mine when these things happen. After that initial angst that goes with it, or sadness or sorrow, start exploring it. And then, I don't know, there's a deeper sense, the deeper wisdom that happens. And often there's a gift in it. And it's to mind that gift, if you want to call it, that particular rejection, real or not real, has provided. So it's an opportunity rather than something to harbor or to be resentful about, or all the various feelings that can go with it. So they may be the initial response, but I think the spiritual practices and that, back to that faith and trust that there's something here for me, to begin that sense of investigation, exploring, bringing in the practices, using the tools that I have. And so then the feelings that go with it, sort of those negative ones, start dissipating, or they lose their power. There isn't the same kind of power associated with it. Yeah, so that's when gratitude comes in, that I have some tools and I have these practices. Yeah, and grateful to myself for making the commitment to work with them. Because it's like anything. I used to be a runner, and I used to run half marathons and 10Ks and things. Well, you have to train to be able to do it. So any kind of spiritual choices or life or paths or journeys, or just the life, takes training, takes practice. Yeah. So that we have the tools to deal with disappointment and rejection. And, yeah.
I really appreciate how you touched on the trust that is required within facing rejections. And you said sometimes it's not a real rejection, like sometimes the mind can make up that feeling of rejection as perceived rejection, but not actual rejection. And it brought to my mind kind of my last year of being rejected from a series of different things that were work related, and sort of the distraught of that and the sadness and the disappointment that rejection can bring. And I now feel that I'm on the other side of those disappointments and that rejection, and actually having this clarity of, oh, all that needed to happen. I needed to be rejected in that time in my life. And now having this bird's eye perspective, seeing the bigger picture and seeing how, because of those rejections, I was given so many different opportunities to enjoy life and to grow as an individual. And so what you said about that trust seems really important. And of course, the trust in the practices and the importance of reflection and self-refinement that can really help with those initial reactions that we can have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that building of trust, now you have that bird's eye perspective. And I know for myself, often if I feel that sense of rejection, now I can say, oh, well, what does the divine have planned here? What's happening? Is this door not opening for a reason? Stay tuned.
Yes, stay tuned. Yes, definitely. Well, and I think a part of that too, when it comes to rejection, self-doubt, and disappointment, which all feel kind of wah, 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 like very hard feelings to feel, I think there's some benefit in staying playful with life, having that hope that everything will somehow come together.
Yeah. So faith again, and keeping that sense of humor, seeing the humor and the joy and everything that's around us. Yeah. So injecting light into it.
Injecting light into it, definitely. Well, and now I'm just reminded of something I often hear from teachers at the ashram when, something doesn't go as planned or something goes wrong, and saying, oh, well, Krishna's at play here. Krishna is up to some tricks. And again, bringing that, what you said, that sense of humor and lightness and surrender to whatever life gives.
Yeah, lots of surrender sometimes not so much. And I remember when I used to have an independent bookstore, and I'd get an idea, and then I'd get another idea, and I'd share them with my staff. And then I noticed after a while they were always panicking because they thought all my ideas were going to come to fruition. But I was just thinking of plan A, B, C, and D, so to speak. And I learned over the years that that's really helpful as well. And I'm sure you did that when you were experiencing all those rejections last year. You had plan B, C, and D
Absolutely.
to work with. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it reminds me of what Swami Radha says so often and writes about, that, we can make all the plans in the world and then we just have to let it go, try our best and let it go to the divine and see how it all plays out.
Yeah. So that's that's working with the divine. It's how important that is. Yeah, we can't just let the divine do everything for us. We have to set things in motion and see what the divine has to say. Yeah.
Well, let's move on to our next question for our time together. Someone asks, Dear Swami, how can I stop overthinking and move forward with confidence? So this question to me sort of sounds like the other side of the first question. First we're in the rejection, self-doubt, disappointment, and then how to stop the overthinking and move forward.
Again, going back to plans, having a plan. Plan A, B, C, D, however many you need. And then let it go. The overthinking takes such an incredible amount of energy. And what I've witnessed in myself and in others is it's often because there isn't that willingness to take that first step forward. And when I catch myself in that sort of spinny, overthinking mode, I stop and say, what can I do? What action can I take? And it doesn't have to be profound. It just has to be small. But a step sometimes has to happen to stop that spinning and overthinking, and which can spiral down into all kinds of things. And the trust that it'll be revealed, whether I'm moving in the right direction or a direction that supports my ideals or where I want to go. But I have the responsibility to take some kind of steps or action. And again, the more trust and faith I have, particularly the trust in that inner knowing of myself, then those first steps or that movement out of overthinking can happen. To get really real, look at the facts, whatever situation is involved in, and deal with it. It sounds really simple, but it's not. It's really complex. And you mentioned, or I mentioned, one of us mentioned the Kundalini system. I think we both did earlier, and how particularly those first 3 chakras and the work that, the exploration that's involved in them. It's all about survival and how I want to be in the world and how I've protected myself over the years and all my fears and all my likes and dislikes. And so exploring all that about myself is an amazing tool to get to that place where there's more trust in my knowing about myself. So I don't have to go through that process of overthinking, which can be very challenging and energy draining.
And what I think, there's so much that comes to mind hearing you talk about this. And one of the things that's arriving is, of course, the importance of reflection, of self-inquiry, of understanding our minds, each individual understanding their mind and how it works and how it reacts to things. And I think what I found has been really helpful for me, if I'm able to notice my overthinking, because sometimes that awareness is just not present. Sometimes the mind really has a life of its own. The monkey mind, I've often heard it be referred to. But at times when I'm able to recognize that overthinking, the power of mantra. And I wondered how your mantra practice has helped you in that process of overthinking and that busy, busy mind.
Hugely. Yeah, it's been an amazing practice for me. I usually like to start my day with a mantra practice. And it's like it clears the field for me to have a day with a lot more steadiness and awareness. So I can bring all of that into the mantra and give it back to the divine, so to speak. But the mantra will reveal what needs to be revealed often if I listen. Yeah. So it's a place for me to bring my feelings, my emotions, my worries, my concerns, bring it into the mantra. And it's like a pacifier, an adult pacifier, if you want to call it that. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I owned this bookstore that I was telling you about, and the previous owner stayed with me for a number of months. And she said, "You're always so calm." And I was doing a fairly decent mantra practice at that time. I committed myself to doing an hour a day before work. And I was getting affirmations all over the place that I was onto something, so to speak. So I'm a huge, huge fan of mantra and the practice of what it can give. And then in a sense, what it can give me, and then what I in turn can give others by being a little bit more calmer and a little bit less quick to respond negatively.
Right, the power of mantra to really help clear and calm the mind and fill the mind with different thoughts.
Well, the mind it is an amazing, amazing power that we all have, but it can also be a trap, and that's the beauty of doing that self-investigative work that the Kundalini system offers, is it helps to reveal the habitual traps that we each have. And then overthinking can be a trap, like you say, when I get to that point, you can recognize and go, "Oh my gosh, here I go again. Let's bring in the mantra." Or even just standing still and breathing for 20 seconds can make a huge difference. Yeah. It doesn't have to be big.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be like an hour a day of mantra. It can be, like you said, 20 seconds of breathing and feeling into the body and really gathering those tools, each individual for ourselves gathering tools to reach out to.
Yeah, and which tool will support me in the moment. And depending where I am in the situation, sometimes it's breath, sometimes it's mantra, sometimes it's a prayer, and sometimes it's movement. It's just different. It's nice to have all those tools.
Absolutely. And I want to go back to something you said about how mantra for you, sometimes you feel that it clears the field. And that sparked in my mind the topic of the knower of the field and its presence within the Bhagavad Gita. And with that, it led me to thinking about reflection and the power of reflection and how that can so deeply develop a sense of confidence in oneself. And the quote, I think it's from Swami Radha, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, of know thyself and be free.
Yeah. Swami Radha said it. It's in her books. And I think that's a Christian quote as well. I think most traditions, when you get to the real essence of the traditions, recognize that. Know yourself and be free. And I feel so fortunate in the sense that we have the tools to help us know ourselves. Swami Radha has said that the evolution of consciousness is what we're here for. That's the most important thing. I have to agree with her.
Nothing else matters.
Nothing else matters. Yeah. It's freedom.
Well, I feel so fortunate to have had this opportunity to speak with you today. So thank you so much for joining me. Namaste.
Namaste, Katie. My pleasure.
Yasodhara Ashram is located in British Columbia on the unceded traditional territory of the Ktunaxa and Sinixt peoples. If you have questions that need answers, you can submit them to the form link in the description. You can learn more about the ashram and Swami Shivananda Radha's teachings by visiting our website at yasodhara.org.